talk about luxury cruising, from sweet so sweet to ships elite. Come explore the world in style with me on Luxury Cruising, the podcast.
Hey, it's Crystal here. Before we get started, did you know that there is a way for you to directly support the podcast? Head over to my website, luxurycruising.net, and you can buy me a latte, a glass of champagne, or even a whole bottle of champagne if you want. Leave me a note, and I'll be sure to give you a shout out on the next episode. That's luxurycruising.net. You can also leave me a note or ask a question. Okay, let's get on with the show.
Welcome back to Luxury Cruising. I'm your host, Crystal Sodaitis, and I am so excited to have Sue with me here today. Sue is going to share her tale of expedition cruising on Silversea to Antarctica. This is really a once-in-a-lifetime trip for many people, and what Sue does is she provides a platform for empty nesters and retirees to do this kind of cruising in a comfortable way where they can establish connection and the discovery of the South Pole and Antarctica. So please let the audience know anything you would like them to know about you.
Thanks so much for having me tonight, Crystal. I'm Sue Ball, and I'm with Sphere Travel. We opened the company about 5 years ago, and we are a luxury planning company that helps empty nesters through retirees discover the world together. And we realize that travel from beginning as an empty nester can look very different as you get to retirement. That first trip as an empty nester compared to your trips in retirement. So we like to kind of walk you through the process, and we love luxury travel. So I can't wait to talk with you about our trip on Silversea.
Awesome. Well, take us back to what made you decide on this ship, cruise, itinerary. Tell us about the planning process.
Yeah, so as a travel advisor, I'm with a luxury consortia with the Signature Travel Network. And oftentimes opportunities are presented to us to be able to cruise different lines. And being focused on luxury, I was invited to explore an expedition with Silversea, something that was on my husband and I's list to do. Of course, when an opportunity like that presents itself, we jump for things like that. As a travel advisor, the biggest question I'm always asked is, have I been there? I find that to be able to help people plan their trips to destinations, the best way is for me to be able to experience them and be able to share my experience with them.
Yeah. Someone told me recently that one of the ways that people are willing to explore something new is if they hear about it or see it on social media, or they hear about it from a friend or a trusted advisor. So the fact that you can say, hey, I've been on this ship, I've done this itinerary, I'm sure is really comforting for a lot of people to know that it's a good experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with expeditions, people think, oh, expedition. And, am I in good physical condition to do it? That kind of thing. And my advice really is to not wait. If you are at all interested in doing something of this nature, no matter what shape you are, and there was people on board this ship that were 85 years old and they did wonderfully. So
yeah, good to know.
Yeah.
So tell us, which ship were you on, and tell us about the ship.
So I was on the Silversea Endeavor, and she actually used to be a Crystal ship. I don't know if you're familiar with the Crystal cruise line.
Yeah.
So Silversea acquired the ship after COVID. Probably the most beautiful ship I've ever been on or have seen.
Wow.
220 passengers and 207 crew. So almost 1-to-1, which is super special.
Yeah. What did the ship look like? How was the decor?
Very light and modern. I loved it. Very clean looking. Every cabin is a suite. Every cabin has a balcony. So lots of space, which is lovely. Not a tiny, tiny little bathroom like a lot of the electric ships have. So yeah, it's a really nice thing. Every cabin has a butler, which is fabulous. Lovely. Caviar every day if you want it. Coffee in your room, breakfast in your room. Yeah, it's great.
Yes. So the room, was there anything that stood out from a luxury standpoint within the room or the bathroom? The bathrooms are always one of my favorite places to find luxury.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm a stickler for hair dryers. It's and I'll say that the ship had a wonderful hair dryer, and I know the ones where they're attached by a cord to the wall and you have to hold your finger on the button is not luxury to me. And people think it's funny, but I'm always looking at what kind of hair dryer they have. So I love that. And just the space in the bathroom was nice. We had a little sitting area that we could have coffee or caviar in the afternoon if we wanted to. And um, in Antarctica, having the balcony was, I wouldn't do it any other way. To be able to stand out there in the morning, it was so peaceful, and seeing the ice and the glaciers and everything was really special.
What was the weather like?
That's funny that you asked that. So we're from Michigan, so we're used to cold winters.
Hmm.
And we packed long underwear and all the things, all the layers and everything. And our first day off the ship, my husband was like, it's hot. And it was 35 degrees and we were overdressed and we got warm. And, that can change. I mean, you could have snow if you're earlier in the season or later in the season. But it was beautiful. Most days were sunny, beautiful, beautiful blue sky, 35 degrees. It was wonderful.
Nice, nice. What is the season? What is the Antarctic
Um,
season?
So early in the season is like November. And that's when it's going to be very pristine. The white snow, not many people have walked on the land, so more pristine there. We went towards the end of the season, which is middle of March or so, the last sailings. But we were there in the most spectacular whale season. We were seeing humpbacks nonstop. It was just amazing. So I think really any time would be good. It just depends on, what you want to see. If you want a lot of wildlife, I think, more towards the end, more pristine is towards the beginning of the season.
But generally, November to March is when cruise ships
Yep.
are going to go.
Yeah. No, it's, South America, so it's opposite of us. So
Yeah, yeah. Did Silversea do anything specific because you were going to Antarctica to make your experience more comfortable, more luxurious?
not as far as like a welcome, like a before you go kind of thing. They did handle all of our flights. We have charter flights from Santiago, Chile down to Porto Williams. And while we were waiting to go on those flights, we had like a get together with, drinks and that kind of thing, just kind of get to know some of the other passengers before we actually boarded. That was really nice. And then as far as like gear and that kind of thing, we're able to rent that ahead of time, which is really nice. So you can kind of figure out what you need. They provide you with a parka, which you get to keep. But boots you can rent, trekking poles, all that kind of thing. So,
Yeah. For people who live like, in the north, they may already have those things. But if you're coming from
Right.
Florida, you may not have winter boots and
Exactly.
trekking
Exactly.
poles.
Right. And they require a certain kind of like the neoprene, waterproof boots, because you do have from the Zodiacs to land, you do have wet landings sometimes where you're actually stepping into the water. So you have to have certain waterproof boots. So it's best just to rent them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm sure it's indescribable, but just give us a sense of what it's like on
Yeah.
Antarctica.
So we were on an 11-day cruise. So we cruised the Drake Passage. Probably should talk about that first.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear about.
Yeah, a lot of people worry about it, that it's going to be too rough. And I am a seasick girl, typically have that issue, but I just took meclizine, which worked fine.
Mhm.
And it was hard to walk on the ship, but it was fine. I mean, I didn't get sick, and I don't think many people did get sick. And if they did, they just rested in their cabin. But it's 2 days to cross the Drake. But being on a longer cruise, what they did is they just went down as far as they could, and we went below the Antarctica Circle, which on a 7-night cruise, it's not very common to do that. And oh my goodness, when we woke up in the morning, I went out on the balcony and pretty much cried. I mean, it was so beautiful, like nothing you can imagine, just the ice floating, and it was sun shining, beautiful white and blue and penguins, and it was just spectacular. Hearing the ship move through the ice. The ship
Yeah.
itself is quiet, and so just absolutely spectacular.
Oh, wow. That sounds amazing. So tell us about sort of what you did, the excursions.
Yeah. So usually we got out a couple times a day, and you're only allowed to have 100 people on land at a time in a spot. So it was staggered where some people would be in zodiacs cruising and some people would actually get off and walk on land. So I would get off on land at least once a day, sometimes twice a day. So they would usually do a morning and an afternoon activity. And a lot of that was, walking, seeing the penguins, not a ton of other animal life, penguins, other flying birds, and then in the ocean, the whales and the seals. We see lots of seals. So walking and that kind of thing. Silversea doesn't do anything with camping. So some people with other cruise lines they'll set up a tent and you stay overnight on land.
Wow.
So they didn't do anything like that. They did do kayaking, which we did experience, and that was spectacular. I mean, we had whales 25 feet from us in the
Wow.
kayak.
That would be like exhilarating and scary.
Yeah, yeah. I think the scariest thing was getting in and out of the kayak because we did it from the Zodiac. So that was probably the
Oh,
hardest thing.
wow.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I want to pause here for a second and emphasize something that we talked a little bit about before we started recording is that you were able to actually get into a Zodiac and set foot on Antarctica. That there's
Right.
only 100 people allowed at a time on the continent. That's for preservation purposes. And a lot of the reason why you could do that was because of the size of the ship that you were on.
Exactly.
So, as a travel advisor, can you talk a little bit more for some people so that they can understand how important the ship you go to Antarctica on is based on the experience you want to have?
Yeah. So, like I had mentioned, the ship was 200 people or 220 people, and they worked it out really well with getting us off the ship and all being able to experience it. But it's really important to look at that when you're choosing a ship. And, depending on your physical ability, and if you really want to be able to get off more than once a day, that's very important. If you're older and you just want to see it, you just want to look out the windows and see the whales, which you'll see plenty of, you could do a bigger ship. And with that, you are just sailing by and you can see the seals and that kind of thing from the ship. But honestly, if you have the opportunity to go, I would choose the smaller ship, no matter your physical ability, because they help you getting on and off the Zodiacs. And you don't have to get out of the Zodiac onto land if you don't want to. So you can
Yeah.
cruise in the Zodiac and get up close to things. There was some days I'm not in pristine physical condition, and my husband is in better health, physical condition than I am. And he went off and hiked up hills and went off, and I just enjoyed my time on land, taking pictures of the penguins and enjoying that. So it's really accessible for most anybody.
Wow, that's amazing. And you answered my next question, which was how physically fit do you really need to be able to experience Antarctica?
Yeah. And I would say with that, if you can climb stairs, you're fine. And it doesn't have to be a lot of stairs because getting on and off the Zodiac, you walk down 5 or 6 stairs to the Zodiac, they grab your hands, they help you on and off, and that's about it. So, like I had seen people that were 85 years old on board ship and they did wonderfully. So,
Wow, that's so good to know. That is
it
so
is.
good to know. So, how about the food? We always love to hear about the food. How was the food on Silversea?
It was wonderful. I loved it. I think that on a Silversea ship in maybe the Mediterranean or something, it might be better. Just because Antarctica is so remote and they stock the ship for a couple weeks at a time and you're not getting fresh vegetables during the day and that kind of thing. So I think, a little bit of maybe running. I think we ran bananas at one point, that kind of thing. The chef was wonderful. We could get caviar during the afternoon if you're a lover of that.
Nice.
So lots of wonderful options. You could have tea in the afternoon. They have a specialty restaurant, La Dame, on board, which is an extra cost. Totally worth it. You're not in the bigger dining room. It's a little bit smaller, more intimate. They did the wine pairing dinner there, and that was fabulous.
And is that just sort of continental food, like American, or what kind of food did they serve there?
I think it varies a bit by ship, but our ship was from the Philippines. And so it had a bit of an Asian flair. But La Dame was more focused French. So you would have escargot, that kind of thing, French onion soup.
Is there a La Dame on every Silversea ship, or is that specific to this ship?
I know it's on many of their ships. I'm not sure if it's on every single one, but they have another program called SALT. Yeah, and that was not on the Endeavor. So,
Okay. So La Dame is on many ships, but the menu, not like on contemporary cruise lines, even premium cruise lines. If you go to, let's say, Tuscan Grill on Celebrity, the menu is going to be pretty much the same, no matter what ship you're on. But it sounds like on Silversea, if you go to La Dame, the menu might change.
I would think so, yes. Especially if you're in La Dame in Europe versus on an expedition. I think there's going to be a pretty big difference between the two.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
So how are you going to use this experience to help your empty nester and sort of retiree clients?
Yeah. So what I love to do with our clients is if I meet with them early in their empty nest, I'd love to work with them to kind of map out what their travels are going to look like from empty nest to retirement. And I usually find that an expedition like this, they're pretty pricey. And that's probably a little bit later in life, probably closer to retirement than when you have kids in college, or kids just getting out of college for weddings or, that kind of thing. So I love to kind of walk them through how that looks and get them thinking about what their goals are.
Absolutely. And I think, do these expedition cruises usually open up?
Usually about 18 months or so ahead. I think we're booking into 2027 for these now. We can't do flights until 330 days before. So I usually say booking a year ahead is good, but it's nice to have it on your radar to know that, hey, maybe for my 60th birthday or, whatever, or my retirement gift, that's on the docket to do. You can plan for it.
I mean, I'm someone that books as far out, especially if it's going to be, a more luxurious experience. I will book it as soon as I can and then just start paying it off, just regular small payments, even if it's over 18 months or sometimes longer, because you prevent that sting of having a giant credit card bill 90 days or 75 days before, and then adding the flights on top of that.
And I think the anticipation of it is half the fun. And so, just making those little payments and then when that's done, then you can just enjoy the anticipation of the cruise. I think that's a great way to go.
But also just having it, you're right. I mean, I've talked about my world cruise that is on my sort of wish list. And I don't know how I'm going to do it or which one I'm going to do, but I just have it in my mind that one day I'm going to do a world cruise.
Yeah, that's on my list too. A lot of people do it when they are thinking about like downsizing or moving into a condo or something, and they'll sell their home that they're in, do a world cruise, and then move to their final home that they're going to enjoy for the rest of their retirement.
There are so many ways to do it. You could make a little fun, like create a little bank account and just like deposit, $50 a month, $100 a month, whatever it is, and just sort of like build your world cruise fund that way. But I think knowing that these things are a possibility, they are more expensive, but I think that people don't realize. But if you could tell us, how much does this itinerary generally run, ballpark?
For a couple, about $45,000.
Yeah, so it's a lot of money, but it's not an insurmountable amount of money. And so if you plan even, 5 years in advance, yes, that's $10,000 a year, but many people could do it.
Yeah. Yep. And, a lot of people spend more than that. They may spend 15 or 20,000 a year on a vacation. So maybe you take a couple of years off and plan for that.
Right.
It's a good way to go.
Right. Exactly. Anything else about the Silversea Endeavor or the trip to Antarctica that you really would like the audience to know?
One of my favorite things on the cruise was the observation lounge. It was just absolutely beautiful on the ship, all glass windows. And it was the social hub of the ship. So during the afternoon, in between zodiacs or getting off onto the continent, we would go in there and just, enjoy our time, meet other people. We had trivia every day. That was kind of fun. But it was just really the hub of the ship. And we met friends that we still talk to. And I just think that place of being with other people is just wonderful. Like, you go to the dining room at night and you may sit with another couple or something, but being in there every day and talking about what you saw when you were on land, is just a wonderful thing with the people that you meet.
I agree. And the other great thing about an expedition cruise is everyone on that ship is excited and has a reason for doing this itinerary. You already have a shared interest. And so having 220 people who are just willing to sit and talk with you about Antarctica for 11 days is amazing.
Right. And little jealousy at times. People would be out and they'd have a whale just right there at their zodiac and we missed it, but so much fun to be able to talk about that and share it and see their pictures. And it's just a really neat and special thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So Sue, I'm just going to step back from this cruise for a few minutes just to ask some questions I ask everybody.
Sure.
How do you define luxury?
So I hate standing in line. So for me, it's no buffets. I love the smallness of what Silversea was. I love just being able to walk on board versus boarding a ship with 7,000 people and having to go check in and go through security and stand in line, that kind of thing. I just did a trip. I was in Europe for 5 weeks this summer with my family. And we didn't have like private drivers set up throughout. I mean, my sister, just different budgets amongst us. And so we did some public transportation and that kind of thing. And, I love getting off an airplane and having a driver with a sign with my name on it waiting for me. I love conveniences. So those kind of things. And I love a great bed. I love a good hair dryer.
Amen.
Yeah.
Not that I dry my hair that often, but I understand. So did this trip meet that definition for you?
It did. Absolutely. I would say the only downside of it were the flights down to Port Williams. They were a chartered flight and we had to wait a long time. It's just the way it is getting down there. And it's just something that people now knowing it and doing it, it's definitely something I would prepare clients for. That's probably the most unpleasant part of the trip is getting all the way down to Port Williams on those flights. But everything else met every expectation. It's wonderful.
That's amazing. What is your dream cruise?
I have not done Greece yet. So I think getting to the Greek Isles, and I want to be able to do that on a smaller ship as well, because I don't like lines. I don't like the busyness. So not doing necessarily Santorini, maybe getting to some smaller, less populated islands, that kind of thing. But
I agree. It seems a little odd to me. I've been to the Greek islands many, many years ago, and it just seems a little odd to me that to disembark 5,000 people onto, and probably multiple boats of 4,000 or 5,000 people. Seems a little odd to me, but I agree. Do you have any luxury cruises planned in the future?
Doing a river cruise, Christmas markets in November. Not quite as luxurious as the Silversea Endeavor, but it should be wonderful. I love river cruising because, again, they're small. It's a neat way to go.
Well, I think the river cruise lines do a really good job of creating a luxurious experience. There might be sort of like the mainstream version of river cruising out there somewhere, but I don't know about it.
I love docking, right next to a town and be able to walk in and the intimacy again of it, the lounge is the hub and the people that you meet. And it's a neat way to go. I love it.
Amazing. So Sue, thank you so much for being here and telling us about this really unique itinerary to see and step on Antarctica. If any of the listeners are interested in doing this itinerary, or if they're empty nesters, soon to be retirees, and if they want to experience that kind of curated service specifically for their needs, how can they get in touch with you?
The best way would be through our website, which is at sphera-travel.com. I'm also on Facebook as well, so you can find me there at Sphera Travel.
Amazing. We will definitely put those links in the show notes. Again, thank you so much, and thank you to the listeners. And until next time, I wish you safe and luxurious cruising.
Hey, before you go, if you're enjoying this content, I would so appreciate a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this podcast. If you'd like to be on the show, there's a link to a form in the show notes, or you can email me at luxurycruisingpodcast@gmail.com. That's luxurycruisingpodcast@gmail.com. I hope to hear from you soon.